Hey everybody, welcome back. It's been an unplanned and unexpected 2-week break, and today is actually the 6th. So I'm gonna edit this video as soon as I'm done recording it so that you are getting like the most up-to-date information available. Today we're going to do the mid-year freakout tag, since tomorrow is the first Tuesday in July and we're halfway through 2026. So I have the prompts next to me. I have some of the books that I'm going to be talking about next to me. There might be cats, and if you'll notice, we are in a new position of the house. All of that will be explained at the end of the video. We're going to go through the mid-year freakout tag questions and we're going to kind of run through them. We're going to try and keep this video pretty short, mostly because I do have to still edit this tonight so that it can get out to you guys tomorrow back at our normal time at noon. But at the end of that, we'll do a little life and health update. So let's get into it. Okay, we're starting off with the first question, and that is, what is the best book that you've read so far this year? I'm 100% going to cheat on this answer, and I'm going to give you an answer for the best physical book I've read this year and the best audiobook that I've read this year. And the best physical book that I've read this year is Daughter of the Deep by Rick Riordan. This is a YA novel. It's the book that I chose for my friend group's traveling book club. And like all of these books, you can check out other videos on the channel to hear their descriptions and why I love them so much, why I feel the way I feel. This will just be a brief little recap on the first half of 2026. My favorite audiobook so far this year is How to Succeed in Witchcraft. And I'm going to try and pronounce this author's name correctly. If I don't, apologies in advance. I believe it is pronounced Aislinn Brophy. They are an amazing author, and this book may come up again later in this video. And if you want more information about it, it'll come up in next week's video, which is a breakdown of every book that I read in June. Question 2 is, what is the best sequel you've read so far this year? And for me, that's The Things Gods Break by Abigail Owen. I started this series earlier this year. Abigail Owen is a new to me author, and I just thought how she took our standard Greek mythology, what everyone else has kind of done with this lore, and kind of twisted it on its head. So I really enjoyed the twists and the turns and the character development in book 2. The third book is coming out, I believe, in November. Question 3 is, what new release haven't you read yet, but you want to? And this is the first one that I can go ahead and grab out a physical book, and that is Love and Other Brain Experiments by Hannah, I believe her last name is Brahm. This description and marketing was really giving Ali Hazelwood. And sometimes you just need a STEM romance to get you going. So this was released at the beginning of this year, and it's Hannah's debut novel, and I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but I'm hoping by the end of this year, this will go from TBR to have read. Question 4 is, what is your most anticipated book for the second half of 2026? I don't think it's going to come as any surprise. I don't think it's going to come as any surprise that my most highly anticipated new book for 2026 that hasn't been released yet is Alexandra Bracken's Immortal Rose. It releases next month, and guys, I'm so excited. I've pre-ordered it. The only thing I didn't do was I totally blanked on the fact that I could pre-order it and get it personalized. I ended up just pre-ordering it. I was so sad, but my friend Libby and I have an agreement that if we can do it, and if Alexandra Bracken comes kind of near us, we are going to travel to her wherever she is on tour and meet her in person and hopefully get books signed. So fingers crossed that that happens. All right, now we're going into what is your biggest disappointment so far this year with regards to books. So for me, this is Long Island by Colm Tribune. I think I've pronounced your name correctly. This is the sequel to the romance novel Brooklyn, or maybe it's almost a coming-of-age novel. I just fell in love with the characters in Brooklyn, and Long Island is a sequel that takes place, I believe, like 20 or more years down the line. I think and I've said this before, I think that if this book was released and they were completely new characters, I would have enjoyed it. But because these things were happening to characters that I really loved and cared about, I didn't love it as much. So that has actually been my biggest disappointment so far this year. You might still enjoy it though. So if you've read Brooklyn or even watched the movie and want to see what happens in their future, check it out. Going back to a more exciting, in my opinion, question, what has been your biggest surprise, again, in relation to books so far this year? We have another physical book, and that is The Vanishing Cherry Blossom Bookshop. Not going to spend too long on this. This book has been popping up all over my YouTube in the past 6 months, and it is that good, for real. Look at how beautiful she is. It's just, I'm so happy I picked up this book, and it's inspired me to continue trying things outside of my typical genres. Question 7 is, who is your favorite new author of 2026? And this can be like new to you or new as in debut. I've decided to do this as new to me because a lot of the debut novels I've read have either not excited me as much as I was hoping they would, or in some cases I just haven't gotten to read the highly anticipated ones on my TBR yet. So we're going to jump back to Aislinn, I believe, Brophy, the author of How to Succeed in Witchcraft. You'll hear all about it in next week's video, but I loved it. I love the writing style. I'm actually currently listening to their second book, and so far I'm digging it just as much as their first book. So I'm very excited that I discovered their writing and their books, and they are my new favorite author of 2026. Question 8 is, who is your newest favorite character that you've discovered? And for me, she's got 2 books. It's Pomona Afton, our favorite heiress, crime-fighting, solver, investigator. How many more words can I use to describe Pomona? I just think she's the perfect mix of kind of oblivious, really, but also very perceptive. I really love her character and how over these past 2 books she's learned to stand up for herself more and to embrace all parts of who she is and kind of like what the important things are in life, while also recognizing that it's okay to like to party, it's okay to like nice things. So if you want more information on Pomona, next week we'll have a review of her second book. And I'm saying her second book, the author, the pen name is Bellamy Rose, but Pomona is a character and I love her. That's my millennial heart. I can also do the Gen Z heart. All right, zooming right along, just like I promised we would. Question 9 is, what is a book that made you cry? And we're going back to The Vanishing Cherry Blossom Bookshop. You can check out my live read and react. There were tears. There were happy tears. There were sad tears. There were so many tears. Question 10. What is a book that made you happy? This one is also showing up on next week's video on the reading recap for June. So sometimes you kind of have to question, is part of this recency bias? I don't know. Maybe we'll delve into that in another video. But a book that just made me happy was Swept Away by Beth O'Leary. I read this on vacation when I was at a beach, and actually I think you can see, yeah, the vlog is up of how much I actually read while on vacation. And being at the beach and reading about being swept away into the ocean, 10 out of 10, no notes. I loved everything about this, from the love story to the survival aspect, and there were just so many giddy moments that this book made me happy. Question 11 is, what is the most beautiful book you've bought or received so far this year? And I don't know, there are a lot of really beautiful books in my little library so far, but I thought This Is How You Lose the Time War was, or is, the most beautiful book that has been added to my collection in 2026. I love the cover. I love how it conveys what's going on in the story without being too obvious. I love the sprayed edges, and I love this art on the inside that again hints at kind of what's going on in the book. I just think it's really beautiful. And we've reached the last question, focusing on books. And it just so happens to also be the longest question for me to answer. And that is, what are my must-reads before the end of 2026? There are so many. I wish I had enough time to just read all of the books on my TBR in the next 6 months. Is that actually going to happen? No, partially because life is crazy and sometimes you don't get to read as much as you want to read, as you'll hear about in a couple minutes, and partially because the TBR is ever growing. I had to narrow it down, so my must-reads before the end of the year are the Mr. Darcy and Miss Tilney series by Claudia Gray. I've read some Claudia Gray before. She writes Star Wars novels as well. And then I believe it was last year I found out that she wrote this like murder mystery, or was currently writing a murder mystery series based in the Pride and Prejudice world. And I was like, you know what? I was at a point in my life where I could just buy books when I wanted to, and I'm so blessed that I have that opportunity. So I just bought the first 4 books in the series, and the 5th book just came out recently, and when there was a sale going on at my favorite local bookstore, I went ahead and snatched it up. And I'm so glad because, you know, come August, September, October, you might have to sit through like a whole reading recap of me being like, and this book in this series, and this book in this series, because I am just so thrilled to live in this series. You guys know that if there's a series, I like to read it back to back to back and just fully immerse myself in the world, and that's what I'm planning to do here. Another of my must-reads before the end of the year is the rest of the After the End novellas from the A2H2 campaign. It's 8 novellas, all dystopian romances. I've read 2 so far, and I'm hoping to read the rest before the end of 2026. Next up, I'll do at least one standalone, and that is Ancient History Between Us by Caitlin Hill. When we're thinking back to like a new release that has been released that I haven't gotten to read yet, that was right up there with Hannah Brome's. I love Caitlin Hill. I was actually going to go to her book signing And then life happened, so this will be my only book of hers that isn't signed. But I think she's just such an incredible author, and I know that I'm gonna like run through that book so quickly. So I'm excited for maybe reading that to get out of this little bit of a slump that I'm in. But there is light at the end of this tunnel of the slump that I'm in, and I will explain that in a couple minutes. Sorry for keep dropping hints. And last but not least on my what are my must reads before the end of the year. This one's last because I don't know. Actually, I don't think it'll actually happen. It's a goal, but sometimes we don't accomplish our goals, and that's okay. But I want to finish off the Julia Quinn catalog. I think I have all of the books that she's written, and there are like 4 or 5 that I haven't read yet. And I think mostly like there are like collections where she's written one novella in this book, but that is a goal. Maybe not by the end of 2026, we can hope, but maybe sometime end of 2026, early 2027, we will be just fully caught up on the Julia Quinn universe. If you've made it to this point, thank you so much. There's just one more thing that we're going to talk about, and it has nothing to do with books. It has just everything to do with me and my life and what's going on. Where have I been for 2 weeks? Why are we in a new location? Why are like some of the books that I've been talking about not here even though I own the physical copies? And the update to that is just that Matt and I are moving. So almost unexpectedly, we decided to start looking at houses. It had been something that we've been talking about for a while of just like, is it time? And also what has gone into this chaos of not posting for 2 weeks. It's been a lot of packing things up to get our house ready and getting our house on the market and touring houses. And it's also contributed to my reading slump. I'm reading some really great books right now, and I had some really great books out from the library that I had to just put in a hold request for that I just couldn't get to because between touring houses and getting our house ready, any free time I had was not reading or doing YouTube. Well, it was kind of doing YouTube. I just needed something easy that I could put on that had nothing to do with anything that I could fall asleep to because of all of the stress. So half of my books are packed away in storage right now, and it's a little bit painful, I'm not gonna lie. It's so silly because, like, let's be real, it's just physical things. I've packed up books that I've already read. But there's something about like having that comfort there where you're like, I can just reach out and grab this if I want, that is no longer there for half of the books that I own. It's interesting. But yeah, maybe in the next couple weeks, maybe in the next month or so, we will be in a new house and you'll get a new background. The other update is a health update. I think it was at the end of the year or maybe the very beginning of this year when I started posting again. One of the things I talked about was something is going on with me physically, something's not right, and how it had already been at that point like over a year of working with a dietitian, going to my doctor, advocating for myself, and that something wasn't right, changing my diet, all of these things, and just like this almost like uncontrollable weight gain that made everything harder. The good thing is that I do have a wonderful team, and also this feels so serious. Everything's okay. I probably should have started off with that, but I've been diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder. And basically what that means is that kind of like I was right. There was something going on in my body, And now that we've addressed the situation and have made changes in my lifestyle to not trigger that autoimmune response, shockingly, I'm doing a lot better. So basically, good news is that I have a diagnosis, and it's just kind of a reaffirming lesson that respect the people and their professions, but also respect yourself and know that no one else has lived in your body, and you know what's going on. You may not know the medical terminology or why something is happening, but if something doesn't feel right, advocate for yourself. In one of the rounds of blood work, my doctor, my PCP, was actually like, oh, well, we can see all the changes that you're doing already to your lifestyle. We can see in your results like how much healthier you are. Not sure why everything else is going on. Basically, long story short, I'm okay. We have everything figured out. Maybe not everything. We have, I think, the biggest thing figured out, and we are working just to be more healthy and to get back into working out and appreciating everything that this body does for me. So that's the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for sticking with me even when I had to spontaneously and unannounced and unplanned, the definition of spontaneous, Mackenzie, take off 2 weeks. And I hope that you continue enjoying the channel, and we're going to continue what we started, I think, with the last video I posted. And that's if you've made it to this part in the video, basically the end. Drop what your favorite book that you read in June was. And if you weren't able to read a book in June, just drop a book emoji. See you all next week. Bye.